A warm welcome to the show. Sunday marked International Women's Day, making it a fitting occasion to reflect on the moment when Polish women secured full voting rights in 1918. But where do we stand today? How have cultural narratives about women shifted in recent years? To discuss these questions, we're joined by Magdalena Grabowska, Professor of Gender Studies at the Polish Academy of Sciences. Hello and welcome, delighted to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the International Women's Day. When and where did it originate, and do we still need this holiday today?
Yes, we do need it. And this is the holiday that was established at the beginning of the 20th century, historically to commemorate the women's strikes in the United States. But it was established by communists or socialists. And the rumor has it that it was Lenin who wanted to celebrate his friend Klara Zetkin's birthday, and it was on the 8th of March. And that was the reason why this day was chosen. So there are, different ways of thinking about where this holiday comes from, but in general, this is to give a praise to working women around the world. And yes, we do need it. Because all kinds of research demonstrate that women are still unequal in our society, all over the world.
Okay, so can you walk us through some of the perceptions of women here in Poland today?
I think when we talk about the perceptions of women in Poland here today, we have to look into history. And first of all, we have to look into the strongest, the fundamental figure or archetype or symbol in Polish culture, which is the mother pole. And this is the symbol that comes from 19th century when Poland was under partitions. It wasn't independent. So the idea of the mother pole was twofold. On one hand, it was the person who had to subordinate her own desires and needs to the cause of the national independence that Poland gained the same year that women got their right to vote, which was 1918. And this was one part of this figure, and the other one is this is the person who has to kind of devote herself to the family. And of course, we have to read it in the context of the reproduction of the nation. So the role of women was to give birth to sons, who then later could fight for national independence. But of course, as every kind of the historical or symbolic figures, it had the other side of it. So on one hand, it was kind of a passive figure. Like I said, it was subjugated to the cause of the national independence. But on the other hand, it had to the woman had to be pretty resourceful, and especially in the context of men fighting for national independence and oftentimes failing, which resulted in them being sent out abroad to Siberia. In case of this particular location where we are here in Poland, in Warsaw. So women had to take over. So another part of that role is to take over, very practically taking over when men are absent and taking over the everyday life and making sure that the life goes on. And that required a lot of independence, and therefore, historically, women in Poland quite early were economically independent, comparing to women in other parts of the world.
And looking at modern demographics, natural population growth has been declining in Poland. So if a Polish woman nowadays is not a mother, then who is she?
I think there is, when we think about what is happening in our society right now, that there is a mix of different kinds of requirements and different kinds of roles that women fulfill in society. And so one role is this traditional family role of the mother and the wife. And then the second one that is also very important, often forgotten, is the role of the working person. And this comes from the post-1945 introduction of the socialist period, where the women's equality was part of this project. So the idea was to make women independent civically from men. Therefore, we had The right to divorce, for instance, was introduced, and the civil marriage. But more importantly, it was the goal of the socialist system was to make sure that as many women as possible are part of the labor force. And that stayed with us after transformation. And the result of the project was that a lot of women in socialist countries in general, but in Poland as well, worked in comparison to countries in the West, for instance. So already in the 1960s and 1970s, it was around 70% of women who worked professionally. So we have that role, and I think that stayed with us. If you look at Polish women right now, very active at the labor market, and there are also parts of this mother pole, but this other side of mother pole that I was talking about, very independent, so flexible in a sense. So not really putting all of its hopes into one job, but oftentimes multitasking. And that multitasking, again, comes from the fact that, even though women were encouraged to work, that didn't mean that all of their work that was supposed to be done at home was taken away from them. Yes, during socialism we had kindergartens, we had daycares, there was a maternity leave, but most of the responsibilities and duties at home, household chores, such as laundry, dishwashing, preparing meals, and so on, was still on women. So women had to take it all in. We call it in sociology a double burden. So it's the burden of having a professional career, being a breadwinner, and on the other hand, still kind of meeting the needs, the requirements of the traditional roles. And just one more thing that I want to say is that we also have to see in the light of what is happening recently with the younger generation of women. And what we see, I think, from the social point of view is that younger women becoming more and more active politically. As you know, 2016 and 2020 in Poland, we had large protests against the restriction on the abortion law. That mobilization really continued throughout and until 2023, where the record number of women participated in the elections. So, contemporarily, I think we have a mix of the different roles that women play. So we have that role of the traditional mother, we have a role of a woman being active at the labor market, taking care of herself and her family still. And finally, we have that role of a woman who is active in a society and fighting for social change, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are some of the main obstacles that women still face nowadays in Poland? You've mentioned reproductive rights. What else?
There is a number of them. So at the cultural level, I think we still had to fight, and not everybody wants to fight that, of course, the stereotype about women. And there is a difference in which women face these stereotypes about what is allowed for women in the different parts of the country. So it's different in the cities and different in the rural areas. One could argue that there's more freedom to be more modern, so to speak, in the cities. I think this is on a deeper cultural level and social level. It's still there. And there are different institutions in Poland that really want to keep that as it was in the 19th century. Then there is some of the legal restrictions that you mentioned, such as restrictive abortion law that leads to the fact that women do not fully control their reproduction. And at the beginning you mentioned that there is a demographic crisis, and we already know from the research that part of the reason for the demographic crisis is the fact that women are scared to have children because they don't know what to expect, for instance, if they would need hospitalization, for instance, going to hospital. So that's the level of security, I think, that is a big obstacle in being able to fulfill your life goals. Having children, I think a lot of women want to have children but decide not to because of that. And finally, we have still discrimination or inequality at the labor market and in politics. So if we look at the political participation of women, like I said, a lot of young women and women in general are politically active, voting, but there is also a lot of women who are active politically as politicians. But still, it's 30 to 70% if you look at the Polish parliament. So it's not representative to what society is.
And how does Poland compare to other EU countries?
A few days ago, there was a release of the so-called gender index. European Institute of Gender Equality is releasing such index from time to time, and Poland is last for the first time. And which is surprising because we still we do have rights, and like I said during our conversation, Polish women are independent, active, flexible, and it's probably also worth mentioning well-educated, very well-educated comparing to men. But still, not a lot is done in the sense of making our life better.
Mm-hmm. And thus far we've been discussing gender in line with biological sex. What about those who identify as female?
As in many countries around the world right now, there is a discussion about gender. From the point of view, I think, of the social justice, it is key for everybody to have some same rights. Transgender people and transgender women, they are women. So, in many ways, that's the answer, right?
And Magdalena, before we go, one last question. I'll need a short answer. What about the representation of some of these archetypes in pop culture? Have you noticed anything interesting?
Wow, this is a good question. I think recently I was thinking a lot about the phenomenon of the trad wives. This is the new kind of way of influencing, being an influencer in society, not only it comes from the United States. And I was wondering to what extent this could catch up in Poland, and I don't think it can. Because it's very far away from where we are historically and culturally from the point of view of what we are talking here today. Because in Poland, we never had a traditional housewife. So there was never a situation in which a majority of women were just working at home and just taking care of the house. Without being preoccupied with other activities outside of the home. That was a rare situation that happened. And I think a lot of the tradwife phenomena is coming from that tradition, or tapping into that 1950s tradition in the United States and the UK. So if you look, for instance, in the social media, how this has been transplanted to Poland, it kind of feels odd. In many ways, so that's one thing that I want to say. But also, what I see in the social media and young influencers, what happened after 2016 and 2020 was that this group of women was also activated in a sense. So they started to, for instance, whether they were, focusing on fashion or makeup or lifestyle, there would be the idea that that's all they do. But many of them decided to speak up and also say that they do outside of the work that they do in the lifestyle, they also do have political views. And I think that was a very important shift.
Magdalena Grabowska, Polish Academy of Sciences, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching Worlds of Culture. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.